You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we're basically going to talk about Pat Cummins for 20 minutes and then try and remember what happened yesterday. I am Jack Hope and I'm joined by Ross Legg. How you doing, Ross?
I am blown away. What a performance. Absolutely unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that. It was monumental.
I mean, it came sort of out of the blue as well, didn't it? Because we were watching it, we were commentating on the game. Andre Russell gets out 11 off 5 balls. And like, do they send in Riyan? Do they send in Cummins? Well, Riyan has probably got the greater pedigree. The IPL has one of the fastest 50s. Surely they send in Riyan. They send in Cummins, fresh off the plane. Fresh off going for 49 runs. And the feeling was maybe they got this one wrong. He puts a bad ball from time out crowd and then never looks back. Takes down Bumrah, takes down Sams. He'd still be taking down people right now. If there were more runs to get, he'd be getting them. It was, I don't know, mental. Let's talk about that game properly in a second. Before we do all that, what are the messages for our listeners?
We are sponsored by Serious Cricket. Go to the website seriouscricket.co.uk and use code TCP22 for 10% off all equipment. Get yourself a new bat, a new helmet, new box, whatever for the new season. Ours starts next Saturday, Jack?
Yeah. We're away. Yeah, we'll probably need a new Macintosh or a new umbrella.
I can literally see the storm that is outside our house right now. And then also we are on Patreon. We've had, I think, 6 new sign-ups in the last few days. So thank you very much for all of you who have joined. We will do a bit of a readout when there's Max here to celebrate it with us too. But you're all in the Discord chat and there's hundreds of messages going every day. So if that's your kind of thing and you want a bit of a cricketing community where there's no judgment there, you may get ridiculed for some opinions, but you can ridicule us for our opinions too. So Welcome to the Discord.
Yeah, there's some pretty mad opinions. Go on. It's good, isn't it? I mean, we love it. We've been loving that. With this bonus show,
cauldron.
Yeah, there's a bonus show out at the weekend, Ross. There's a bonus show out. That's £4 a month. Even if you pay for one day, you get 2 shows, 2 extra shows. Last month's bonus show. You get to say hello in the Discord. You get to download the IPL data. It's a pretty good offer. Or give us more money. And if you want to give us more money, we'll accept that too. Serious Cricket, TCP. Use that code. Help us out there too. All of these things add up, don't they, Ross? Oh yeah. What else added up? The number of runs that KKR needed to score versus their target. Can you quickly summarise how that game went?
Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube, it kind of goes like this. It goes like this, and then way right at the top. And it pretty much started out with Mumbai Indians losing the toss, and KKR stuck them in. And it was a pretty slow start. So the bowling of Umesh Yadav, Jack, I mean, we've got to celebrate that you actually called something right. Umesh Yadav is in pole position for the purple cap.
I'm 6 and 8 now. I'm coming back from the hole. I would have been 7-7 without the cum dog. It's only that it was so good that I'm not actually really angry with. Irrationally angry. It was meddled with a Twitter prediction.
It was that opening burst that just left Mumbai Indians reeling. They just didn't get started at all. After 10.5 overs, they were on 50, and they were, by the end of that over, they were 55 for 3. So you're sitting there going, what the hell has happened to this lineup? We saw the introduction of baby AB de Villiers and Dewald Brevis, who looked at home, looked very comfortable, far better than Rohit Sharma looked, who very much struggled. Kishan didn't get going either, and it was the spin of Chakravarti to get another wicket. But everything just seemed to just slow down a little bit. And KKR showed that their whole approach is to stifle and then to unleash the beasts that they have in their lineup. When it came to chasing it down, it was relatively like plain sailing. We were on Guerrilla Cricket doing commentary, and Jack, you thought that Mumbai Indians were slightly ahead. I was very much of the opinion that they were just about keeping up with the run rate.
Captain hindsight here.
Hey, I called it on the commentary, mate. Called it on the commentary.
Oh, you said Andre Russell was going to come in and do it, and then he lasted 5 balls.
Well,
nobody
strike rate of 220.
In their right mind was thinking, oh yeah, I think Pat Cummins is going to 4 overs there.
Well, not 4 overs to spare, but KKR were well in the game, and then the freak happened. Pat Cummins, the man who is just all about breaking cricketing myths. I've just tweeted saying he's going to have a new episode of Mythbusters. He's gone to Pakistan and won, and where they said that Australia couldn't do it. He's a fast bowling Test captain, where they said that's not going to work, and a successful one as that. They say that Test players don't make good T20 players. Here he is. Like, this guy could do everything, including hitting 56 or 15 balls.
It was mad. It was mad. He tied the record for the most, but the fastest 50, didn't he? That in itself is pretty impressive. KL Rahul, the record holder of 14 balls in the IPL. So he ties that. He nearly outright takes it. It's only because Surya Kumar Yadav is such a good fielder that he doesn't get there in 13 balls. Next ball just like hits a 4 anyway to get him to the score, and then finishes it with a 6. I mean, if you're going to win a game, if you're going to have a bit of a blowout in the that's the kind of blowout you want. Like the ball being blown out of Pune Cricket Stadium. it's what I mean. I can't really even get my head around it. That is Pat Cummins as well.
Supreme.
I mean, like we know Pat Cummins is a good cricketer. We know he's a good batter, but that's kind of off the scale, isn't it?
Yeah, that is Dre Russ, right? It's almost like, in Space Jam, where they take the ability from one player and give it to themselves. That's kind of what Pat Cummins has done here. He's taken all of the Dre Russ hitting ability and just channeled it. It was absolutely, and they didn't have an answer, right? They didn't have an answer. Like Venki Iyer in this game is at 50 off of 41 balls and was pedestrian the whole way through. Looked like he was scratching around, couldn't really deal with that ball that just back of the length going across him. And Pat Cummins comes in and just goes, What track are you batting on, mate?
It was a bit like that. There's quite a lot of other stuff happened in this match, but it's almost difficult to sort of recall it after that. I mean, after the game, Andre Russell, literally dancing round Pat Cummins. When Andre Russell is dancing round you because of how explosive your batting is, you are God. Like,
you've out-alphaed Dre Russ. You got Kieran Pollard and Dre Russ on that pitch, and Pat Cummins would be like, "Yeah, move down the bench, guys."
Yeah, big sixes. Like full swings of the bat, ball going over long off, going over long on, deep square leg.
Bring on more Daniel Sams. He was screaming. It was.
Daniel Sams was slaughtered. 35 runs off his. Yeah, and he's probably thinking, you know what, could have been worse.
Have saved me a little bit there. But Daniel Sams ends the game with 3 overs bowled, 50 for 1.
And he actually didn't even bowl that badly. I mean, Boomer as well, just getting car parked by the Aussie Test. Ridiculous. If you're on YouTube, by the way, and you like that innings, why don't you click like? Use the like that you have for Cummins. Help the cricket podcast. Does that make sense? And click subscribe, obviously, if you are listening, watching, whatever it is. Ross, what else happened in this match that we?
So it was the return of Sky, or Surya Kumar Yadav, which we thought was going to be a massive boon. When we talked about the Mumbai Indians in the IPL preview show, when we did predict that they would be in the playoffs, we assumed that Sky would be there from the start. And you saw today his importance to this lineup. I know that Mumbai Indians lost, but there is a piece here around his criticality in bringing all of the different moving parts together. He hit 52 off 36 balls today, but again, looked like he'd never been away. It was some top-class innings, and we would be sitting here going, that was one of the key innings in this game, but Pat Cummins has completely dwarfed him. We also saw Dewald Brevis for the first time, who looked unfazed. We've said before that there's a big step up between the Under-19s World Cup and the level that he's played at so far, and then coming in batting at 3 against the purple cap holder, a real baptism of fire. And I thought he dealt with it relatively well, actually.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think you're right. I was a little bit suspicious of the amount of money they spent on him. like a decent player. When he actually gets arm muscles, well, he could be really dangerous, couldn't he? There was a couple he hit back down the ground, sort of one bounce fours. But you looked at the bat speed and it didn't quite make sense. You were like, if that had been Josh Butler, it's over the fence, over the side screen.
He literally is 18.
He's a teenager.
So,
he's
12 years younger than me. That's depressing.
He's got his whole career ahead of him.
His whole life ahead of him. Wow. That is a life, right?
What's your favourite age?
My favourite age?
Yeah.
Oh, I reckon probably 23, 24, I reckon.
So that's the prime. That's 5 years away for him.
Yeah. No, I'm on the decline now. I'm getting fatter. I'm losing my hair.
The thing is, I would say it's a slow decline. Like the peak, 17, no good. 18, 19, really peaking. 20, 21, 23, hitting a crest. But it's a shallow decline. I don't feel. I'd much rather be 30, 17.
Okay, yeah, all right. I could buy into that. Yeah. My best cricketing years would be the last 3 years. It might be the standard I've gone to play at, maybe, but it could also be the fact that I know more about my game. I've got a better technique. My understanding of everything looks better. Who knows?
It could be any of those things. Pollard was good, wasn't he?
Well, he was very good at swinging the bat really hard. So this was the negative bit of Cummins, right? Because you can only criticise someone who is bowling it so fast that Kieran Pollard has no idea where it's going to go and it flies off the bat for six. Like, it was unbelievable that some of the criticism that was coming towards. I'm an Englishman protecting Pat Cummins here, which feels very
I don't know.
dirty.
I think his death bowling is really bad.
It's not perfect, but in that situation, like, what can you do? Cummins, Pollard's come out and he's just smashed it. 2 balls have gone over his own head for 6. Like, that's just unfortunate.
I feel like you've got to read the room a little bit. You're bowling to a guy who's only just come to the crease. Vary your pace. Do something. Bowl a bouncer. Don't go for like the length ball, 5 balls in a row in the last. What do you think he's going to do? You think he's going to?
You do have the telegraph. Yeah, I get you that. But again, they didn't really leave themselves much option. Again, they've gone to Dre Russ for one of those last 2 overs, which I'm not totally convinced on.
It worked out today, but I agree with you. Yeah.
But then they had Rashik Salam, who was his debut for the Kolkata Knight Riders. 3 overs for 18 runs. Actually, looked perfectly fine. Looked far more serviceable than Shivam Mavi has done in the last couple of games. Do
you reckon that's the auction bid that is most regretted across the IPL this year? That's Bear who's doing commentary with us. So I'm going to mute myself while you answer that, Ross.
That's absolutely fine. So I think sometimes, but there's a bit around Shivam Mavi where he bowls at the difficult times for KKR, and they've come out of playing the first 3 games, and he's played 2 of them in a pretty decent position, really. Guess he struggled a little bit, but he's still a relatively young player, relatively inexperienced, and there is a piece around trying to build up that confidence, I think. And I think as a young fast bowler, any kind of relative young cricketer, you need to be able to have that trust. And I think being in and out of the side isn't a massive pat on the back, is it, really? So there's going to be a bit of doubt.
I've got to unmute myself. For sure. It's not the season he'll. There's a long way to go, though, right? And they obviously have seen something that they like. And Brendan McCullum is probably right on these things. What I'd maybe say about KKR in general is that they have been like a lot more solid, and they look to have a much better game plan. Tournament, we kind of speculate a top order of 5. I still don't why Nitish Rana's there, but he is. But what they have that some of the other teams don't have is the ability to accelerate things. That's been demonstrated like very obviously in the last 2 matches. If you compare them to some of the other teams in this tournament, let's take Sunrisers or Rajasthan Royals. If they fall behind a run rate of 8 and over, and it gets up to 10 over the last 6 overs of an innings, they don't really have the firepower at 6, 7, 8 to drag them out of that hole. KKR, the run rate can get a little bit high, it can get a little bit low. It's somebody down the order is going to put the foot down and hit 3 sixes in an over. And
So
that is go on.
I'm going to put a bit of a wet blanket on some of this. I think getting carried away with the KKR train after this incredible performance, but you have to also see that this may not well be sustainable, right? Dre Russell hit 80 off 30 balls. Cummins is just coming into a kind of a once in a lifetime kind of innings, and it is kind of masking up some of the problems that they do have at the top of the order.
Yeah, right. Think. But like they do have some problems at the top of the order, but also Andre Russell, fit and batting really well.
Mm-hmm.
The Cundog, he's never going to do that. We all know he's never going to do that again. But him in anything like that sort of form, and Sunil Narayan as 6, 7, 8 is a monster lower order. Versus, let's take Rajasthan Royals, team that you love so much. Riyan Parag, Ravi Ashwin, and Navdeep Saini.
Oh, it's not great. I'm not getting around that. But I'll tell you what, I'm taking Josh Butler, Samson, Devdutt Padikal over Ajinkya Rahane, Venki Iyer, and
Sure.
Rana.
But what it means is that Rajasthan, when they bat second, or even when they bat first, they have to start at a good run rate and they have to maintain 8 or 9 and over. Kolkata Knight Riders can have a bad over or two and still think we're in the game here, lad. Like we've still got Dre Russ, we've still got Ryan, and they know that, I think, is the other thing. The way the top order has played has shown, I think, that they are aware that they can take risks because they've got these huge bailout cards down. Shreyas Iyer, for example, has, I wouldn't say got himself out, but played shots that Sunil Gavaskar would say he didn't need to play. And he's doing that because he knows that down the order he has 3 absolute fucking legends. And they 2 legends in the previous games, but now 3 guys who you just rely on. So there's no point not taking on the short ball. There's no point thinking I'm not so good against leg spin, I'm going to put the slog sleep away. No, you just crack it out. Some point in the tournament, Shreyas Iyer is going to get 100 off balls, and he'll be the one that everyone's dancing around at the end. And I think because they know that, or because they've been told that, they're coming out looking like a much better franchise, a much better team than I expected in the preview shows, where I thought they'd be bottom 3.
Yeah, I think the bit you've nailed is the game plan. I think having that confidence in their approach is a massive, massive advantage, because you've seen some of the other teams haven't figured it out yet. They don't know who they are. They've not got that identity. And they've been, Kolkata retained 4 players and were able to do that. Mumbai were hoping for something similar. Sky being out has kind of not let them do it quite well. Rohit Sharma looks badly out of form. And for the price they retained him at, he needs to buck his ideas up and start returning more for them. But again, Mumbai Indians, CSK, 3 games played, 3 losses. I mean, that's the beauty of the mega auction, right?
That's the IPL, baby.
Yeah, it's a Catalina white mixer. So that's where we're at. So
anything else from this match?
No, I thought it was all in all just one of those games in the IPL which just undermines why it is such a fantastic product and why it is just such a. If you weren't watching this today and you're just catching up now and you've seen us bloody go splurge all about Pat Cummins, you're just like, what the hell have I missed? And today, an absolute treat.
It's a real FOMO product, isn't it? Of the IPL. You never really want to turn off the TV in case you see something like that, even in a game that looks like it's going one direction. Here's a question to round things off there. Mumbai 3 losses. We've been saying that 8 wins is what you'll need to get to IPL. 7 if you're really lucky, but I think it'll be 8 with 10. Have they got an 8-3 streak in them, do you think? 8-3 streak?
I think of all teams, you can never rule out CSK or Mumbai Indians. I think that's what we've kind of come to learn, and they have been typically slow starters. I think Sky being back is critical for them, but they really need to figure out that bowling lineup. Is Daniel Sams really the answer in this space? They went all out on sort of getting Jofra Archer for next year, knowing he can't play here, but that is leaving a massive hole that Basil Tampi and Daniel Sams are having to fill, and I'm just not sure it's there. And again,
Unad Cat, one word.
The inconsistency is quite damning, I think. Like you saw in the last game, Kieran Pollard bowled 4 overs. Here he's not bowled at all. Tilak Verma's been sneaked in for an over today, which was kind of giving a bit more flexibility to it. But unfortunately, it's not worked out. To me, there's a bit of confused thinking there from Mumbai, and typically they are so well drilled. So it'd be interesting to see how they do bounce back. But you could never write off the 5-time champs.
Yeah, I think that batting lineup, put Sky back into it, is still probably the best one to see batting lineup. Talked about Rajasthan, they might have a better top four. Punjab might have a better top four. They don't have a better 5, 6, 7. There's reasons for optimism by Indians. That bowling, I think, touch on good point. It's pretty confusing. There are some pretty things, and they're look at the teams that I think have done really well as well. They're not a team that seem to have much threat with the new ball. I was joking about Unadkat. Maybe Unadkat would be something.
I mean, Yadav's been unbelievable, right? Having Yadav in this team has been a boon for them. So let's talk about the boys, Rajasthan, shall we?
So this is yesterday's match. Do you want me to do the summary of this match, or would you like to do the summary of this?
Yes, please. No, you do.
Okay.
You do it.
So yesterday, Rajasthan played. They've already gone wrong. Rajasthan Royals played Royal Challengers Bangalore, the regal contest, or one of the regal contests. Obviously, the Kings and the Super Kings. They should have a little group of 4 mini tournament off season. The Regal League. The Royals, they batted first. They put 169 for 3 up on the board. It was kind of a weird innings. It has to be said. Josh Buttler, he gets to the end of it, and you see figures of 70 runs scored, 40 faced, strike rate of 148, and you think, that's okay. It's not the world's greatest innings, but probably job done for your opening batter. Then you look, he's hit no 4s and 6 6s, and there's some clues that maybe it was some odd stuff going down. Sanju Samson failed for the first time in the tournament. Obviously, you know the trajectory of him. He starts on mate up like me. Guy on our cricket. Should I choose this? Luca from our cricket. I'm pretty sure he doesn't listen. Shimron Hetmeyer got 42, 169, 3 wickets. I don't know. If you're 3 wickets down, you score only 169. You probably haven't scored enough runs, but they hit lots of 6s at the end. I'm conflicted. We'll get into this. We'll get into this. RCB, they go out to bat. Starts off okay. Faf du Plessis, we're all thinking he's the main man. He's on 29. I'm giving it the big one in the Discord about how I don't think he's good. He's proven me wrong. Then he gets out. And then there's like a huge batting collapse. Nobody describes a huge batting collapse. Rawat goes. Not a great innings from him. Virat Kohli is run out by David Willey. In fact, Virat Kohli runs himself out, but it's much funnier if you see David Willey runs out Virat Kohli. And next ball, David Willey bowled by Yuzi Chahal.
A beauty. A beauty.
Sherfane Rutherford, nobody knows why he's even at the IPL. He doesn't know why he's at the IPL. 5 from 10. He needs to go home from the IPL. Shabazz comes in. Shabazz Ahmed. And he's sort of clogging things up, and it looks pretty miserable for RCB. Enter Dinesh Karthik, the most likeable man. Amazing guy, amazing commentator, an amazing wearer of shirts, amazing wicketkeeper, an amazing helmet, an amazing man all round. He gets 44 from 23. It does it again. The postman, Dinesh Karthik. He always delivers. I really wanted it to happen when it looked like he took down that Ashwin over, I think.
Yeah.
When it looked like maybe something is on here. It went from like an 80-90% chance of a Rajasthan win, 50-50. Like, come on, if there's any guy you're going to get. He does it with 5 balls to spare as well. It was gets the Jack Hope seal of approval this innings. And this batting in general. RCB looking all right. Rajasthan Royals also looking all right. Yeah. 2 good teams. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think what we've seen here is the limitations of that Royals lineup. I think where we've got the top order, they've obviously spent their balance of the side is to have 4 or 5 people that they can kind of work with at the top, and then not really risk it too much with the bottom. Riyan Parag is not a number 6. Like, let's be honest. Like, he should not be there. Ashwin is not a number 7.
Got a good haircut though, Parag.
But I mean, and that's half the battle sometimes. But I've had a haircut and I think it's okay.
I need a haircut.
So there we go. So if I was in the IPL, people would be like, he looks like he belongs in the IPL at number 6. But that is where their limitation is. If one of their lineup fails, if more than one of their lineup fails, as we've seen here, Jaiswal and Sanju Samson, then that is an issue for them. But Josh Buttler, he was terrible. Like, he was absolutely woeful throughout that innings. And typically, old Josh Buttler would throw his wicket away, and it would be, you'd be like, what has just happened there? Here, he's persevered with it. It is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and he's got away with a couple of sixes at the end, which kind of boosts where it should be. If that was KL Rahul, we'd be sitting going, that's a fucking disgrace for an innings. And I agree. I literally am in that position now where it wasn't good enough. But because of the way in which they are set up, they've literally got 5 batsmen. It's a very difficult position to be in. Nathan Coulter-Nile has been ruled out of the IPL, so they have the opportunity to bring in a replacement. If they bring in someone like Steve Smith, I'm gonna have to burn my Rajasthan Royals hat, because they have now got a perfect opportunity to fix an issue which they couldn't quite address at the auction, and hopefully give themselves an even better platform to work with. Right, they're doing well. They are doing. They've got a good bowling lineup, but again, it's just missing that one or two people bit. Like, it should Navdeep Saini really be in this lineup? Is there a drastic difference between him bowling and Jimmy Neesham? Not entirely sure. Parag should be replaced in that lineup, but that's where I think they're kind of struggling at the moment. The challengers, I mean, again, out of the blocks, Faf du Plessis and Rawat, they looked okay. But Faf du Plessis, again, hit more boundaries in his kind of opening bit than I think Rajasthan Royals managed in their whole innings. Nearly
5 more fours than Josh Buttler did. So what I'm hearing from you here a little bit is that Rajasthan, they finished 169 for 3, and that looks like a bit of a weird score. But actually, had the 4 happened at any point, it could. Now, it's a tale. It's a tale that begins at 6. It's mad. Mm-hmm. I also like Parag. He got the Graham Souness treatment from Danny Morrison. Did you see this when he fielded a ball at point, and then like a terrible throw, like the weakest throw, nowhere near the backing up. Danny Morrison was, what are you? Like, why are you here? Like, why is
we got to blame Paul Pogba?
It was a little bit like that. It was just like loathing of who Riyan Parag is. When he came onto the scene, Parag was like exciting. He was a guy who could hit the ball and could bowl and tried things. And it's a little bit weird 2 years later to be talking about him as this sort of Paul Pogba light, isn't it? He hasn't got the talent level of Paul Pogba.
But they're also a bit like some of the. I think Simon Dow said it on the commentary. Like, completely bought in Riyan Parag's like personal life. Bought in that he's a bit of an influencer, a bit of a social media kind of player, and that kind of stuff. Like, who gives a shit? Like, they're talking about cricket. They don't need to start bringing that stuff in. That is that Graham Souness type commentary where you're bringing in stuff that is about the person rather than about the cricketer. And I don't think that flies in this regard. Like, Riyan Parag could well be a useful number 7 or 8 if he was to be given that role in this team. Could quite well do that. But actually, they've got better players in those positions. Him being shoehorned into 6 and then being asked to be a 6 when he clearly doesn't quite have that about him is a massive ask for him. And so I think, there is just a bit around, if there's an injury, fine, he can play. But they need a better number 6 right now. Whether that ends up being Owen Morgan, I don't know. I'm not sure. But I could definitely see a bit where Rajasthan press the panic button and bring in either Steve Smith or Owen Morgan. I hope they don't do it. I don't think that would be the right decision.
Well, they should try, though. And I don't think you can do this, can they? Because they went in the pool. Chris Morris out of retirement. He'd be the ideal player to bring in right now. They've got a little bit of a death bowling wobble. They need a guy who can hit down the order. It would be the perfect synergy. Obviously.
ICB. Rajasthan Royals announced Dawid Malan as their number 6.
It wouldn't stun me at all. Got some decent leg breaks, and Yeah, we've got a nice concurrent viewership happening over on YouTube. If you are one of those concurrent viewers, here's a reminder: we do shows every Wednesday, every Friday, and every Sunday, about 6:30 after the game, wrapping up bits, talking about how old we are, kitchen we're in, etc. Like and subscribe, get involved in action. Send us a super chat if you want a question. Keeps us in business. Or head over to Patreon, Serious Cricket, all in the show notes. Ross, anything else on this Rajasthan game? I did think it was a mad game. I mean, I don't think we've given Dinesh Karthik anywhere near enough love.
No, we should talk about.
It's difficult to do that after Cummins.
Yeah, we after Cummins.
After Cummins.
Why talk to the Godfather? Come to my house. But there's a bit where, for RCB, this was again, they have managed to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, really, here. Like, they did not look like they were in a position to win this, right? After Kohli was run out and David really was out next ball, to Chahal, who's hit the ground running at Rajasthan.
Oh, he looked amazing.
Like, there was turn, bounce, drift.
Yeah.
Like, I think he looked like the real deal. And RCB would be sitting there going, "Oh no, we've let go of a pretty decent bowler there." But again, in this lineup, as you talk about, Shafane Rutherford isn't going to be there forever, right? Glenn Maxwell comes back into this lineup. When you start thinking around, like, does Akashdeep survive here? Because they've got Faf du Plessis as an overseas. I think David Willey will drop out for Josh Hazlewood, and Josh Hazlewood will go down the order, and Hasaranga probably bumped up a little bit. So they've got reinforcements coming into this lineup, and they are sitting pretty. And the fact that Shahbaz Ahmed and Dinesh Karthik have kind of gone, "Oh no, we know our roles, we know them really well," and they've got a strong leader in Faf du Plessis, which captaincy, he's doing the right decisions, which is much better than half the other captains in this competition. So he's a net positive.
Yeah, they're still sixth in the table. There's a few teams that have won, but I think if you swap out David Willey for Hazlewood.
David Willey's done okay.
Who does Maxwell?
Shafane Rutherford.
Oh, I mean, that's you're basically going from donkey to Ferrari. There, aren't you? You've missed
maybe Citroen Saxo.
You've missed 200 years of automotive design and revolution. Mm-hmm. It's you've skipped steam engines completely with that upgrade. I mean, Rutherford. If they're in another game, another time, I'd properly go for him, because I was looking up his stats and just no anything. It's astonishing. Guy has a gift in the IPL. But
there's some guys in the chat saying around how come Nisham, Daryl Mitchell's not getting an opportunity at the Royals, and it's a pretty good point, right? They're only playing 3 overseas players. There is a question mark around that, but we don't know the reason, because we would be playing at least one of them. I think for RCB, Jack, I think you're right. There's a bit like, yes, they might be sitting 6th, but at the same time, they've got the same amount of points as 5 other teams. So they're well set, conceding they've had 2 of their best players missing.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good. Do you want to do the last team? Because I think you've got to head off at past, haven't you? The last match. You know what that is?
Yes. Yeah.
So on Monday, Lucknow Super Sunrisers. Lucknow, they batted first. King Legend did a King Legend. I loved King Legend. Like, whatever the situation is, King Legend tries to get chasing 250 first. Could have had a batting collapse. On this occasion, it was exactly the right innings to play, I think. I would give credit. They get up to 160. Deepak Huda again. Where's he come from? 1 off 30. But Dhoni comes in, does what old Dhoni, good Dhoni, whatever. 19 off 12. There, and then Sunrisers. They're. I mean, I was saying earlier how KKR can go up and down. Sunrisers, to get this score, had to go only gear as long as possible. And it looked like they were actually going to do it. It looked like we were going to have an exciting finish. In fact, we did have quite an exciting finish. Sunrisers team, but they just lost too many. Nicholas Pooran just isn't quite good enough. Russell can. Umdog can. or to do what Pollard can do. Just not in that category of 34 of 24 for him. When Avesh comes out, kind of curtains. I thought it was Avesh that. And they come in 12 runs short of Lucknow Super Giants. The question that everyone will be asking, Rob, vis-a-vis Sunrisers, Brad, are they on for 14?
I hope so. They are. Oh. I think some of those players, I quite like some of their players. Like Rahul Tripathi, I think is a genuinely like quite a good player. He's not an 8 crore player, but he's one of those people like you like to like. And I think you've got a team there who have some decent players like Natarajan. Actually, him not being injured, you see how effective he is, right? And a critical part of that component. You saw why they struggled so much last year. I thought there was a much improved approach for Sunrisers in this game. There was a little bit of risk taken on by Kane Williamson. So we knew that the matchup for off spin against Quinton de Kock and Evan Lewis was a really positive one in favour of Sunrisers. Sundar isn't the greatest, but in this case he was used really effectively. I think he bowled 3 overs in the power play, and it's that kind of ballsy move that Sunrisers are going to have to continue to do and continue to try and stack the odds in their favour a little bit, because they don't have the best of teams. I think we saw the issues with their lineup. I mean, is Aidan Markram and is Purad that they're not the top shelf overseas players. Like Purad might have gone for big money, but they are not top shelf. You kind of get. Oh, right. I will do some. I'll do some more talking, and I think when you've got this kind of lineup, it's going to be increasingly difficult for them to get themselves out of trouble. We saw Washington Sundar in the game before have an unbelievable innings. Samad has got the ability to hit sixes. Unfortunate to get out first ball in that game, but trying to absolutely hoon one. And there's a bit that Sunrisers fans can at least take a little bit of pride in. But I think this is going to be a very long season for them. And I think they're going to very much struggle to actually make any inroads, even with their lineup of trying to bowl teams out and limits them to that 160 mark. They've always got a couple of overs in them that, unfortunately, are going to go round the park. Is your mic back up and working, Jack?
It is. I mean, yeah. So I think it is now on YouTube. Sorry about that. You know, occasionally we get technical issues. It's a great time actually. It goes a little bit Sean Connery there. It's a great time actually to remind you that if you pay to support the show, patreon.com/the cricket pod, or you go, yeah, we can get a new mic. You know, if we get to 50 Patreons, which is not that far away, I'll buy a new mic, and we'll all buy new mics. Maybe.
There we go. All gets reinvested into the podcast anyway, so better content for you. So I think when it comes to that lineup, like Lucknow, I think fair play to KL Rahul. I can't believe it, but he captained far better than he did in the previous games. He made the right decisions at the right time, which I thought was good. Jason Holder obviously coming back and doing what Jason Holder does. But you saw here they had a plan, and it's nice to see a team actually stick to something. Yeah, Avesh Khan, who impressed so much for Delhi, and it is such a loss for Delhi Capitals, as you can see this season. Really, back of the length, difficult to hit, troubled the batsmen, and they seem to be able to, follow what the analysts have been telling them. They were bowling to people's weaknesses. I think Andrew Ty's figures, as much as I don't think he really should be in this team, actually his figures don't represent how well he bowled. I actually thought he got a little bit unfortunate with some of the boundaries that were hit off him. Their fielding still a little bit underwhelming. They have dropped the Sri Lankan Chimera, however to say it. But he was a joke last game, and they dropped him duly for it. But Bishnoi dropped a couple of catches in this game, and if they're going to make the playoffs, they can't be taking. They can't do the classic take 12 wickets. They've got to be able to take their chances when it comes. Yeah, there were some good points and bad points for the Super Giants in this game, weren't there? The captaincy was better. I think Holder helps the team a lot more. KL Rahul was
all right. They dug themselves out of a terrible hole. Huda actually looks like he might be able to do the business in the IPL. So you've got all of these things. Then on the other hand, you've got the fact that it was against Sunrisers. And, and really any team that's decent should be absolutely steamrolling that bunch of jokers. And I don't want to be... we've laboured this point enough, I think, to have it fairly well established that we think they're a disastrously run team who have recruited some really underwhelming players. But it is relevant for the teams that are playing them. You should be trying to beat this team by 50 runs. Like this is your net run rate victory. This is Norwich of the Premier League. Like this is you go there and you try and beat them 3-0 and then rest all your players. Like it's
and this is why Lucknow they're just not quite there. And that's I think there was a better plan, as I said, but you saw an issue where you saw what Sunrisers were trying to do, and they sent Evan Lewis like a lamb to the slaughter. It was quite an interesting approach. Right? They could have sent Manish Pandey in up top. Yes, Pandey's not brilliant against spin, but actually the matchup in terms of the off spinner to the right hander is a far more favourable one than Evan Lewis's one. And I just think sometimes it takes that kind of versatility and flexibility, which you've seen from other teams, to move their batsmen up and down the order. Lucknow are a little bit rigid on that front, and that's probably an area to improve.
Yeah, it was. And Washington Sundar isn't even like an amazing attacking off spinner. In fact, he has a worse record against left-handers than he does against right-handers, which is really unusual for a guy who spins the ball away, obviously from left-handers. But you could see what was going to happen in this game from a mile away. Like power play overs from Sundar because of De Kock. So don't send in the De Kock replacement. Evan Lewis is De Kock but without gloves. Like it's just send anyone else in, disrupt it a little bit. And then later in the inning, you'll have that opportunity. Instead, they were like, just lamb to the slaughter. In you go. We know you can't play against this type of bowling, but there he is. And 3 wickets for Washi.
Yeah, I do think we need to talk a little bit more. I know we've laboured the point 1,000 times that Sunrisers are terrible, but every game that goes past, you see how much of a disaster it was to retain Kane Williamson at that price. They literally could have released him and bought him back for about 10 lakh.
I don't know about 10 lakh, but
it would have been base price, maybe 4
sub 5 crore, I think.
Yeah, something in that.
I don't see who else would buy him. Like a guy who has a career strike rate of 126 in T20 cricket. Yeah, nobody else is that stupid. I mean, people would bid for him, but.
Yeah, I get there's always a captaincy tax, but the captaincy tax isn't $1 million, is it? Like, surely it can't be $1 million.
That is literally it. And they can't drop him because he's an overseas player. So it's like this combination of a guy who probably isn't quite good enough. Well, certainly isn't a front tier overseas player, with the fact that he's an overseas player who you've made captain, with the fact that you retained him at the expense of Rashid Khan and or Johnny Bairstow. It's
so they valued him over David Warner, which jury's still out on that one. He's not played for Delhi yet this year. But there is that bit for me where the term confused definitely comes to mind. I think their bowling lineup is looking a little bit better, and the decisions that were made are positive, but I'm clutching at straws a little bit.
Right, Ross, we've got 4 minutes to go, so it's time for a little bit of wild speculation. There are 2 matches being played tomorrow and Friday before our next show. Friday, 6:30, subscribe. Lucknow Super Giants v Delhi Capitals tomorrow. Delhi should be up towards near a full strength with the return of Warner. Where's your money on
Norkia?
There? And Norkia, is he back? Is he back? Norkia's back.
I think so. So Norkia is supposed to be back for tomorrow. So if Norkia is back and David Warner's back, that is an absolute doozy. And it's a big game for Delhi. I think that is going to be Delhi's. If those 2 players are back, Delhi win that game.
Okay, that's pretty sure. I'd be tempted to agree with you. I think. I think for a lot of the reason we just outlined, Lucknow maybe not that great. They're obviously going to win some matches. They're capable of putting things together. They're sometimes a little bit incoherent. Delhi, you throw Norkia in there, and they look like a beast team again. And then our Friday fixture is the Punjab Kings versus the Gujarat Titans. Some decent early running from both of them. Both got 2 wins. Punjab have got 1 loss. Where are you thinking the victory's going to head?
I think the big area for concern here, or the opportunity for the Ahmedabad boys, is to target the power play, right? Target the power play with their bowlers and try and take those early wickets. We've seen that is a weakness for Punjab Kings if they lose a couple early on. I think if Johnny Bairstow comes back into the lineup, it bolsters that area. But how they end up organising Shikhar Dhawan, Agarwal, Bairstow, Livingston, and whoever comes into that position, I thought Jitish Sharma did quite well actually in that kind of Raj Bauer type role.
He was better than Raj Bauer in the Raj Bauer role.
And I'm not even talking about Rajapaksa there, right, as well, who's been really great until his silly run out. And I think if Shami can do what Shami did in the first game, huge bit here. The alternative side here is that I think they are almost opposite teams. I think Punjab Kings have a really decent batting lineup, whereas Gujarat Titans don't. Hardik Pandya is doing okay, but it's not quite working. However, the bowling lineup for Gujarat Titans is better than Punjab Kings one. So Chahal has started well. Rabada finding his way into the tournament a little bit. So you might see someone like Sandeep Sharma come in to try and target those power play overs, where I think that's the issue for Punjab Kings at the moment.
Yeah, I've been a little bit underwhelmed with Punjab's bowling for sure, particularly early up. And I think the teams that have been really successful in this IPL so far, and it is early days, have been those teams with early penetration. So be interesting to see what they can rustle up there. I'd probably back Punjab to win because I think they have better cricketers. I mean, I just think they're a better team, if we're being a little bit blunt. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely ways you can get at them. The power play, I'm not so sure about that. And I really think they have to bring Bairstow in. I can't. Yeah. I think their middle order is so poor against spin. And you can actually, we did this on the last show, you can work out a way to have Bairstow and Rajapaksa, and you get to get rid of Odean Smith, who is a liability with the ball.
Odean Smith is doing your best work. Odean Smith.
Obviously, he can twat it a long way, but he's probably done his one of those for the season. There's nothing to indicate he's regularly going to do it. So put him back on the bench. Let's see if he develops as a bit more of a better batter next season. Then you can bring him back in for Bairstow, because he'll probably be on tour to Pakistan or something with the England Test team.
Yeah, and I think this is the game where they should not drop Rajapaksa. That's the bit for me now. Rajapaksa has proven he's a good pace hitter. Here, there is a bit that they are focused on Pandya getting 4 overs, Lockie Ferguson getting 4 overs, and Mohammad Shami getting 4 overs. You want someone who gives Hardik Pandya a difficult decision to make. And I think Rajapaksa is one of those players who could do that, because we've seen he can hit 30 off 9 balls. Give him that road.
Right, Ross, it's 7:30 in the UK. You have to go to a call. Final reminders for everyone. Patreon.com/TheCricketPod to support the show. Head over there now. Please do. Please do this. Help me get a new mic. Serious Cricket are our sponsors. We're really thankful to them. Use the code TCP22 for 10% off their equipment, which will be your equipment once you've used the code and paid for it. That's our gift to you. And like, follow, subscribe, etc., etc., etc. We'll be back Friday. We'll be back Sunday after that. We'll be back Wednesday after that. Then we'll be back Friday, and then we'll be back Sunday, and then we'll be back Wednesday after that. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Peace.